Hello, Christ has ascended. I'm not going to record everything now, but I want to hide somewhere tonight. I want to share with you an email that I received, and after that email, I'll try to calm down tonight and record tomorrow. Hear this, everyone. I don't understand racism, and I hate violence. I don't look at that as worthy, just who I am. I'm lots of other stuff as well, mostly unhealthy, and I'm shaking inside. I wish I could have answered your second question, my question about the response of the church to the murder that is going on in America. And I suppose I should care to answer it. But the church in America is complicit in all the structures that have given a rise to that knee on that neck. And I find it difficult to say church and Christ in the same breath anymore. Forgive me, Father, for speaking frankly. My care is that we love as Christ. And I find those outside the church are doing a much better job of it. The church is for the church and for the next life, not for this world, nor this life. Of course he's wrong. And of course he's right. And I need to take this night to pray and to think before I answer this, because I understand fully what he says. And I understand fully why something like this could keep him and thousands and thousands and endless thousands of people away from the church, because this inability of us who make the church, not the church as an institution only, but us, those who are the church, our inability to be alive and to let the world know that we care. This inability has kept me outside the church for so long. Truth concerning Christ is in the Orthodox Church. But there is a huge chasm between the perfection of the theological knowledge that we have about Christ and our actions in the world, and we lose souls because of our fault and our carelessness and our lack of love. I'll pray and I'll think and I'll record tomorrow morning. God be with all of us. I don't know what's the best way to start this recording. I don't know that there is a best way or even a good way. How do you talk about pain? How do you talk about feeling guilty and responsible for something that happens so far away from you? Violence does not happen in the streets. Violence does not happen outside. Violence happens inside, in our hearts. And one cannot be violent or non-violent depending on the day, depending on the mood, if you've had your coffee in the morning or if you haven't. You can't be loving with some people and unloving with others. Violence, like non-violence. Hatred, like love. Pride, like humility. These are things that become who you are, or they never become anything. They either are or they are not. You can't be anywhere in between, because these are things that define who you are as a person. There is no question about validating or justifying violence. God is the King of peace, so who is the King of violence? There is no question about taking sides, because there are no sides. My brother is my life. Saint Siluan, following on the tradition of every single saint from Christ's time to our time, says that my brother is my life. If I fail my brother, I have failed myself. This is why understanding that we are one is so important. When you are the abuser of your brother in any way, physical or emotional or mental, in any way, when you fail your brother, you've failed yourself. When you've abused your brother, you have abused yourself. When you've torn him away from you, what you have done is that you've amputated one of your arms, one of your ears. You have diminished yourself. You have defaced, deformed, compromised yourself. Non-violence, love, and trying to be a drop of healing, a drop of holiness into this world is not a cloth you put on and you take off depending on whether or not it suits you or whether or not it is comfortable for you. Non-violence and love is who you are or is nothing at all in your life. Let's try not to fail this one. Let's try not to fail these brothers and these sisters of ours. Let's take a stand. Let's act. Go and speak to your priest. Send him 20 emails a day. Go and speak to your bishop. Send them 20 emails a day. Ask them to take a stand. Ask them to make the position of the church known. Ask them, what does Christ tell us to do in this context, and ask them to make that public. Where are all our marches? Where are all our even virtual marches if we can't go out into the streets because we are afraid or because of this virus? Is a march only worth organizing when it's about abortion? Is that all we care about? Have we become this sect that opposes abortion? Is this what Christianity has been reduced to? Or is life somehow in our minds only worth living, only worth fighting for if it's of a certain age or a certain color of the skin or a certain religion or sexual orientation or ethnicity, citizenship? If we get born, we are no longer just a fetus in our mother's womb. Is this life no longer worth fighting for? If I'm brown or black or purple or pink or whatever God created me to be, does that mean that my life is somehow smaller and not worth marching for? Is the fact that I may not be Christian, I'm a Muslim, or I believe in nothing, I believe in bunnies that float in the sky, does that mean that my life is somehow lower? If I'm gay, or if I'm Muslim, or if I'm Mexican, or if I'm African or Asian or whatever I am, does that mean that my life is not worth fighting for? Have we become that blind? Have we become that low in our hearts and our life? This is not me speaking against those who fight against abortion. This is just using that as an example because it helped me to understand how small that percentage of humanity that we feel is worth fighting for, how small that percentage has become. If somebody is older or of a different color of the skin or of a different religion or from a different country, all of a sudden we don't quite care. All of a sudden there are reasons why we should play this one safe, why we should stay away. Don't play anything safe when it comes to the life of your brothers or your sisters, because Christ makes it so clear. A lukewarm, a safe heart is the heart that he spits from his mouth. I don't want to be that heart. I don't want to be that heart. I don't want anyone to be that heart. I don't want you to be that heart. We need to speak. We need to do something. We can't just hide in theoretical concepts and ideas, in canons and dogmas and say that life, real life doesn't matter, because our brothers and our sisters are not written texts or concepts or dogmas. They are living, breathing creatures made of flesh and bones. And for these Christ has died, and these he has commanded us to love like ourselves. What has happened? What went wrong? Can we only fight when we talk about communion spoons and vaccinations and microchips in our brains or microchips in our blood and other absolute nonsense like that? Have we become this small? Have we gotten this low? Is that who we are? Is that what we've reduced our faith to be? I see only two answers to this. Either this is indeed who we have become, and this is how low our understanding of Christianity and Christ's teaching has become. Or this is how indifferent and cold we have become. What can be more real than a murder? What can be more real than a living, breathing man who no longer lives, who no longer breathes? What can be more real than a murder you see with your own eyes? And what can be further from Christ than to look away from that murder, than to not do anything about it, than to cover it with idiotic conspiracy theories, than to cover it by focusing on something else, shifting our attention from one aspect of the riots to another? This is not about those riots. Don't focus on those violent riots, because this is not about them. This country, this injustice, that injustice, this abuse, the other abuse, this is not about that. Don't focus on that, because this is the real distraction. This is about our unity in Christ and the fact that the world and our politicians, your politicians, are doing everything in their power to break us up so that they can indeed control the world. If you want a conspiracy theory, this is the conspiracy theory. Christ has taught us that we are one and that we should love each other to the point of death. No one has a greater love than the one who dies for his brother or his sister. Christ is telling us that we are one, that we should stick together, that we should be united, that we should be one the same way that he and the Father are one. This is Christ's teaching, and the world does everything to shift our focus from this and to make it this person versus that person, that country versus the other country, this party versus the other party, just to break us up. This is not about any segregation, about any separation, about any wall of any kind that breaks the unity of us all in Christ. The demon here is not white. The demon here is not black. The demon here is not American or non-American. The demon here is not old versus young. The demon here is not Christian versus non-Christian. The demon always is this instinct of self-destruction in us that forces us, that makes us to separate from our brothers and our sisters, to perceive them as our enemies. But when you see your brother or your sister as an enemy, when you see your brother or your sister as somehow a lower kind of human, what you do is that you break away from yourself. You amputate yourself and you are no longer a full human being. You break away from the fullness of humanity which you see in Christ. We've all known violence in our lives. We've all known abuse of sorts in our life and suffering and pain. We've all lost someone whom we love. We've all been in a position where we were looked down upon and put down just because you look different or you sound different or you come from a different place. Why is it so difficult to access that place of pain in us, to identify with all these people who are crying out that they cannot breathe anymore? Why do we have to reach these explosion moments when people have to go out into the streets to scream, "I can't breathe anymore"? Why isn't that the instinct of our heart? Why isn't this oneness that Christ has given us as his commandment, the vision of our lives, the instinct of our hearts? Why? We all have known pain. We all have known suffering and abuse and violence of one sort or another. It should be so easy to identify with the pain and the suffering of people who are just dying before our eyes. I am so ashamed that I even considered for a day or two to record about something else, just to give you all a break from all of this. I thought people must be sick and tired of this topic by now. People must just want a break. They would like to look away, to have a break. A break. A break. We got tired a week into all of this. What about those people who are into this for their whole life? What about the people for whom this abuse is their only life? And we got tired a week of looking at it. I started from an email, and I will end with another email I received this morning. A wonderful friend of ours reminded me of that gesture of Saint Ita. If you look at the icons that the monastery makes, you'll see it. There's a gesture in an icon where Saint Ita just embraces her children. And these are not her children. These are all foreigners in our language. These are all children who were adopted or just dropped there by their parents to be educated and raised. And she just embraces them all and looks up to Christ. This is who we should be in the world. We should be the voice of the oppressed, not the oppressors. We should be the ones who suffer, not the ones who bring on suffering. We should be the ones who embrace this world and suffocate the world with love. That's the only kind of suffocation we should be offering. Suffocate the world with love. Melt this world with love to the point that we feel that we are one. The world will know that you are mine if you love one another. Are we really his? Why are we so broken? Why every time there's suffering in the world, we look for any reason, any justification not to look at it, not to face it, not to address it? Why do we limit? Why do we limit the life that we feel it's worth fighting for to just white and young and of a certain religion and or nationality? Was there any nationality or age or color of the skin or religion or any sort of other kind of separation of categorizing life? Was there any of that in Christ, in the gospel? How has this happened? How have we become so removed from the reality of a heart that is in pain, of a heart that suffers? Our own hearts are in pain. Our own hearts have known suffering. Why is it so difficult to just love and to heal and to pray for oneness and unity? Let's stop listening to any voice that tells us that there's a need to separate from the world. There's a need to put one category above the other. There's a need to put one country or one ethnicity above the others. We are one in Christ, and anything, any march, any policy, any theory that separates you from this, anything that moves, shifts your focus from this, which is the only teaching of Christ, that we are one in Him, anything that separates you from that is a demon. Don't follow that. There is so much beauty in your heart. There is so much pain and love in your heart. Use those to answer with love and forgiveness and compassion and deep, profound humility, because we are all guilty for the suffering of every single human being who has ever suffered, from Adam all the way to the last man to ever be born. There is so much beauty and love in us, in every single one of us. Let's show that to the world, and that will heal us and will heal the world. Because when we heal the world, we heal ourselves. I do love you, and if anything I have said offends or hurts you in any way, I do apologize. I do not want to promote any policy. I do not care for any philosophy or idea or political party. All I want to do is stay true to Christ's teaching and the teaching of the Orthodox tradition and to my own heart. I'm just giving witness. I'm not trying to convince or to force you to believe anything. This is who I am. This is my faith in Christ. And I just share it with you as openly and nakedly as I am able to, because I think this is the way to love. Forgive me, and may God forgive and save us all, because we are all one. Amen.